Hey everybody, another GMG review. Today we're taking a look at Death Battletome Soulblight Gravelords, another digital Battletome complimentary review copy that was sent to me by Games Workshop for us to check out today, and which covers the vampires and their kin in the Age of Sigmar. Now, it's funny, this is a bit like the last Battletome I went through where they've gone back to dividing it into 4 armies. And there doesn't seem to be a consistent theme of this. This is a 3rd edition glow up for the Soulblight Gravelords, but unlike most of them where they've flattened the sort of like selectable keyword faction abilities into an extra trait, and you get to like maybe unlock some battle line. It was relatively like simple, but everybody got to pick from the same pool of powers. We're back to everyone has like a bespoke selection of like artifacts and command traits and monster rampages and stuff for 5 different selectable keywords. So the Legion of Blood, Legion of Night, the Vyrkos, the Kastelai, and the Avengorii all have their own kind of separate army list, which also unlocks additional battle line units. And the core thing is the spell lists. So everybody shares the same like Lord of the Vampires, Lord of the Death Mages, and then a few extra allegiance abilities. So what's going on with the vampires? Well, the Cursed City storyline basically is still kind of entrenched in this book. And of course, Nagash's Necroquake and all of the subsequent stuff that's happening fighting in Gur has continued to drag the timeline forward. We have 1 new unit, a new plastic blister, which you'll see today, up for pre-order as well. And that's about it. It's a 3rd edition book glow up pretty much, and this is a double release alongside. You'll see my review today as well for the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, which is a bit tighter thematically. This one kind of feels like 4 different army lists or 5 different army lists in one book. That one, the Legions, it all feels like Ossiarch Bone Reapers, and the Legions kind of give you a flavor on top of that of what you want to take. This one's like 4 separate, complete sets of like allegiance abilities. So let's talk about the other stuff. The Endless Legions is a universal trait. At the end of the movement phase, pick a friendly Soulblight Gravelord summonable unit that's been destroyed, and roll a die. Add 1 to the roll if it's your movement phase. Basically it's 4+ on your opponent's movement phase and 3+ on your movement phase. If you pick a summonable unit that's not a hero on a 4+, a new replacement unit with half its models remaining that was destroyed running up is out of your army. The unit must be set up wholly within 12 of a friendly Soulblight Gravelord's hero or a gravesite marker and more than 3 inches from all enemy units, and cannot attempt a charge or make a pylon move in the same turn. Each destroyed unit can only be replaced once in this way. If you pick a summonable hero on a 4+, you can set that hero up wholly within 12 inches of a friendly other hero or gravesite. More than 3 from the enemy, and more than 3 wounds, and with 3 wounds allocated to it. So 3 wounds allocated to it, not remaining. So it's whatever your wound stat is, -3, which is pretty important for some of these heroes. That hero cannot attempt to charge or make a pylon move in the same turn. You cannot pick the same hero to benefit from this more than once per battle. So everything can come back, as long as it's summonable or a hero, which is bonkers. The Unquiet Dead. After territory is determined, you can pick 2 points within your territory and up to 2 points anywhere in the battlefield outside your territory to be gravesites. Each gravesite must be more than 1 from all terrain features and objectives. If both players can set up gravesites in the same time, or if one player can set up faction terrain features at the same time as the other player, then they roll off basically to see who goes first. During deployment, instead of setting up a Soulblight's Gravelord summonable unit on the battlefield, you can place it to one side and say that you'll set up in the grave as a reserve unit. You can then set up 1 unit in the grave for each unit that you have set up in the battlefield. At the end of your movement phase, you can set up 1 or more of these reserve units in the grave on the battlefield, wholly within 12 of the grave site and more than 9 for the enemy. So basically, half your army can stay off the table. During your movement phase, you can set up 1 or more, so as many as you want reserve units. Not within 9 of the enemy, within 12. So you can basically counter-deploy half your army at the end of your movement phase in response to your opponent. That works because a lot of this stuff in your army is fairly slow. Deathly Invocation. In your hero phase, you can pick up to free friendly Soulblight Gravelord summonable units that are wholly within 12 of a friendly Soulblight Gravelord's hero. You can either heal up to 3 wounds allocated to them, or if no wounds are allocated, set up a number of models with a combined wound characteristic of 3 or less. Add 1 to the number of slain models that are returned if the unit is wholly within 12 of a grave site. Now that's interesting because it's add 1 to the number of slain models returned. So I guess summonable units with more than 3 wounds could get models back next to a grave site as long as they're summonable. I don't know if that'll actually trigger in there, but I just realized that because it's an extra slain model, not an extra number of wounds. So like if you had a 2-wound model, normally you'd bring back 1, but because you're next to your gravesite, you bring back 2 because you'd round up, right? And you discard the extra wound. And then everybody has a ward save, Deathless Minions. Everyone has 6-up ward. Oh, and the same unit can't be brought back with the invocation more than once per turn. Then your spell lords, there's the Lord of the Vampires and Lord of the Death Mages. Obviously, Death Mages are like your Necromancers, and the Vampires are Vampires. It goes without saying. So 3 spells for each. Soul Spike is your first Vampire one. Cast on 9. Cannot, and if it's not unbound, pick 2 different enemy units. Sorry, Soul Spike is cast on 6 and range 24. If you cast it, pick 1 enemy unit within range invisible until your next hero phase. If that unit makes a charge move, roll a number of dice equal to the charge roll, and for every 4+, take a mortal wound. So basically, it's like an opposite ogre charge. You cast it on somebody, and if they decide to charge you, they make their charge roll, and the bigger that roll is, the more likely they take half that distance in mortal wounds. If it's a 9+ and not unbound, you can pick 2 different enemy units instead of just 1. So every 9+, you can do it twice. Then you have Vile Transference, cast on 6, range 9. If cast, pick an enemy unit within range invisible, roll a number of dice equal to the wound characteristic, and for every 5+, to take a mortal wound. And you can heal 1 allocated to the caster. If the casting roll is 9+ and it's not dispelled, the target suffers 1 mortal wound and you can heal 1 wound on a 4+ instead of a 5. And then Spirit Gate, if the unmodified, sorry, I keep reading the bottom half first. Spirit Gale, not Gate, cast on 7. If cast, each enemy unit on the battlefield suffers a wound. And on a 9+, after it's been resolved, you can immediately resolve the effect of the spell for a second time. So basically, everyone takes a wound, then everyone takes a wound again, which is bonkers. And then your Death Mages, you've got Fading Vigor, casts on a 6 and range of 18. If cast, pick 1 enemy unit within range invisible to the caster, and they're -1 of their attack characteristic for the melee weapons until your next hero phase. On a 9+, subtract 2 from the attacks instead of 1. It's all minimum of 1s. Prison of Grief, it's cast on 6, range 12. If you cast it, pick an enemy unit within range invisible to the caster. To your next hero phase, the strike last effect applies to them. On a 9+, the range is 24 instead of 12. And then Waste Away, it's cast on 6, range 18. If you cast it, pick 1 enemy unit within range invisible. Into your next hero phase, subtract 1 from the wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons, and -1 from the damage characteristic of the melee weapons to a minimum of 1. If it's 9+, you can pick 2 different units to be affected instead of just 1. So the Death Mage is all about debuffing. The Vampires are all about doing damage and like messing with abilities. So like all of the Vampire spells do damage, either by, if you try and charge me, you take damage. I just do damage and heal damage to myself. And then the last one's just, everyone takes damage, everyone takes damage. They're literally just all blood-sucking abilities. And then it's all like debuffing attacks and making people slower and having people be -1 to their damage and stuff for the Death Mages. So I like that they fulfill very different roles, and you're very clear about what the roles are, right? The Vampires are all about hurting people and maybe healing. Death Mages are all about making units weaker and like less hard hitting. All right, so 5 legions, let's dive in. You only have a single, so like you might have noticed, there's 6 spells, there's no command traits in there at all. So yeah, you're looking at command traits coming straight out of the whatchamacallit, the Legion that you pick otherwise. There's no universal ones at all. So the Legion battles trait is Unparalleled Expertise. And this is like Nephrod is like Inner Circle. If a friendly Legion of Blood vampire hero is within 3 of enemy units, it's Bloodthirsty. If it's more than 3, it's Empowered. So you're +1 to your attacks if you're within 3. You're +1 to casting and dispelling if you're empowered. So basically you fight better if you're up close, you cast better if you're far away. And then the Covenant of New Lamia, these are your heroic actions. And this is 2 different ones. There's Premeditated Bloodshed. Pick a friendly Legions of Blood vampire hero. Until the end of the turn, ward rolls cannot be made for their wounds and mortal wounds caused by them. And then Immortal Majesty. Pick a friendly Legion of Blood vampire hero. Until the end of the turn, your opponent must spend 2 command points instead of 1 to issue all defense and inspiring presence command to enemy units within 12 of that hero. Obviously, the Premeditated Bloodshed's amazing, but Immortal Majesty could have some interesting, like being able to stop all at defense is an interesting ability, or making it cost double. And then 3 command traits. Tailored Downfall. After deployment before the first battle round, you can pick an enemy hero on the battlefield. The strike last effect applies to units within 3 of them. And then Game Hunter. After deployment, but before the first battle round, you can pick an enemy monster that's not a hero. Their attack characteristic of that unit's melee weapons is 1 while they're within 3 of the general. Not -1, 1. The attack characteristic of that unit's melee weapons is 1. Just let that sink in for a second. Hey, you're a monster? So all the Sons of Behemoth characters that aren't heroes? So all of them? Like, no, wait, actually, no, I think only one becomes a hero. Anyway. A lot of dangerous things in turning all of your attacks to 1 if you're a monster. And then Doom minions. After deployment, but before the first battle round begins, you can pick D3 enemy units that are not heroes or monsters. Attacks made with melee weapons that target that unit hit on an unmodified hit of 2+ while they're within 3 of this general. So you always hit 3 of them, or D3 of the minion units on 2+. That's incredible. And remember, these are just command traits. They can go on like a Vampire Lord and a Zombie Dragon. They can go on anybody. And then your artifacts, Amulet of Screams. Roll a dice each time an enemy unit's within 18 inches of the caster casts a spell that's not unbound. On a 3+, the unit takes D3 mortal wounds after the effects have been resolved. So make it punish them for casting. Orb of Enchantment. Once per battle, at the start of the combat phase, you can pick an enemy hero within 3 of the bear and roll a die. On a 3+, they cannot be picked to fight at all. So just turn off an enemy hero within 3. Hey, Go Trick, can't fight. On a 3+. No way of stopping it, not a spell. Just on a 3+, you don't fight. Yeah. Yeah, once per battle. Yeah. And then Cloak of Mist and Shadows, ignore modifiers, positive, negative to your save rolls, just become ethereal. So, a strangely good fighting hero for the seductive vampires. Alright, Legion of Night. This is Manfred's Legion. They have Ageless Cutting once per turn when the enemy in the enemy charge phase. After an enemy unit finishes a charge move, pick 1 friendly Legion of Night unit within 12 of the enemy unit, and more than 3 from all enemy units. That unit can attempt to charge, so you can counter charge basically. Swift Form is your heroic action. Pick 1 friendly Legion of Night vampire hero, more than 3 from the enemy, remove them from the battlefield and set them up anywhere in the battlefield, more than 9 from the enemy. And they can't move in the following movement phase. Basically teleport. You have teleport as a heroic action. Could be pretty cool. And then you have another one for Into the Jaws of Death. If you are a Terrorgeist or Zombie Dragon, you can do the following Monstrous Rampage. Pick 1 enemy unit within 6 inches of this unit that made a charge move in this phase and roll 2d6. Add 3 to the roll if the enemy is within a ½ inch of this unit. If the roll is greater than the unmodified charge roll for that charge phase, this unit can attack with its Pestilential Breath or Death Shriek in this phase and must target the enemy unit. Basically, you get a free volley fire as a monstrous action if they ran up to you. So if someone charges you, check what their charge roll was and roll 2d6. If they charged you in particular, add +3. And yeah, so you're average rolling a 10. And see if you get to fire for free. But it's not a volley fire. It's just this unit can attack with Pestilential Breath or Death Shriek. So no -1 to hit. You just get to shoot. Just go bam. Your command traits, Above Suspicion. During deployment, instead of setting up this general on the battlefield, you can place them on one side and say that they're in reserve. If you do so at the end of your movement phase, you can set them up on the battlefield more than 9 from all enemy units. Basically, Manfred doesn't not trust this guy to go off by himself. The Bait. While this general's on the battlefield, I want to save rolls and ward rolls for attacks that target friendly summonable units in the first battle round. So your whole army gets a 5+ ward and +1 to save in the first round. That feels real powerful. If you're summonable, not the heroes and stuff. And then Unbending Will. Models in the Legion of Night summonable units count as 2 models instead of 1 for the purpose of contesting objectives while they're wholly within 12. That's very powerful, doubling your objective secured. All right, your 3 artifacts. The Shard of Night. Ignore negative modifiers to save rolls for attacks made with missile weapons that target the bearer. So it's not quite the Lamian one for just attacks. This one's just missile weapons. So like functionally worse. Just functionally worse. Just worse for some reason. I don't know. I don't know how the scale of the powers of these things balance each other out. The Chiropteran Cloak. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a melee weapon that targets the bearer is a 1, the attacking unit suffers a mortal wound after all the attacks have been resolved. So if you roll 1s to hit them, take a mortal wound. And then Morbeg's Claw in your hero phase. If the bearer is more than 3 from all enemy units, you can say that they will carve sigils into the ground using Morbeg's Claw. If you do so, add 2 to casting rolls for friendly Legion of Night Wizards, wholly within 12 of the bear. Until your next hero phase, however, the bear cannot make a normal move, run, retreat, or attempt to charge. So basically, you're just going to stand there and dig in the ground, and you make everybody better at casting. So yeah, I don't know, the Manfred's one's kind of weird. I like the stand and shoot monstrous ability, but it kind of means you have to take a monster. I like the Bamf for swift form, but you're not particularly better at fighting. I don't know, maybe it's a sleeper one. The counter charge is really cool. There's a lot of movement shenanigans with like the ability to ambush one of your heroes, and then also Bamf with swift form. The bait's kind of cool. There's a bunch of casting bonuses. Shard Knight just is worse than the Lamian one, though. I don't know. It seems okay. So far, the Lamian one, if you want to make a fighting hero, just seems better. Like, just overall better. All right, so we're into the Vyrkos dynasty. This is where we're at with the Cursed City vampires. Their battle trait is the strength of the wolf is the pack. In the combat phase, after a friendly Vyrkos hero is fought for the first time in that phase, pick a friendly Vyrkos unit that's not yet fought, and within 3 of the enemy, and hopefully within 12 of them, and they fight. So you can chain activate, basically. You have the Galician champion ability, which seems to be getting handed out a lot. And Infamous Lineage is your 2 heroic actions. You get Pack Alpha, pick a friendly Vyrkos vampire hero, then pick a friendly Deadwalkers unit within 12 invisible, and you can add D3 models to the unit, so just heal your unit, D3. And then Kin of the Wolf, pick 1 friendly Vyrkos vampire hero, and if you do so, you can add a unit of 10 direwolves to your army. The unit must be set up wholly within 9 of the hero, carrying this heroic action, more than 9 from all enemy units. The direwolves unit cannot move in the following movement phase. You cannot carry this heroic action more than once per battle. So period. So just, if you're playing Vyrkos, somebody stands still for a turn, and you get 10 direwolves. You get 20 wounds with the models, just for free, just for an action. I mean, that's cool. 10 extra models for just playing that faction. I mean, how many points is that? 10 extra direwolves is 260 extra points. So you get a more than 10% army size increase just for playing Vyrkos, which is interesting. Wait, do they start at 10? No, they start at 5, I'm pretty sure. I might have just read that wrong. I might have just told you completely wrong information. Oh, they do. No, it's only 130. So you get a 13% size increase to your, or no, 5% because it's a 2001 game. 5%, 5 plus 5.33-ish percent. Yeah, because they're in units of 10 out of 5. I thought there were 2 wounds units of 5, not the 1 wound unit 10. But still a 10% army increase for playing Vyrkos. That's kind of neat. Then you get command traits, Alpha Predators, driven by Death Stench. You can reroll charge rolls for friendly Vyrkos units, play with 9 in the general. This is all for your general. Alpha Predators, Hunter's Snare, for the purpose of contesting objectives. Your general counts the number of models equal to their wound characteristic. That's interesting. So your general is always like, if you're 6 wounds, you're 6 models. It doesn't say current wound characteristic, it just says wounds characteristic. So the bigger you are, so if you're on a zombie dragon, you can count as like 16 models. Spoor Trackers, at the start of your hero phase, friendly Vyrkos Deadwalker units, wholly within 9 of the general, can make a normal move up to 3 inches. And then your Artifacts of Power, the Trophies of the Hunt. You have an Ulfencarni Phylactery. Crafted by the Chamberlain Torgilius, this item allows the bearer's minions to shrug off even terminal blows. Add 1 to ward rolls for friendly Vyrkos summonable units for the purpose of the Deathless Minions battle trait, while they're wholly within 9 of the bearer. So +1 to your ward saves. That's a powerful ability, just +1 ward saves. So 5+ ward for everybody within 9 of them. The Terminus Clock, it's the Doomsday Clock, it's Flavor Flav's clock. At the start of the enemy hero phase, you can say that the bearer will stop the Terminus Clock because the Doomsday's come. If you do so, roll a dice on a 3+ until the end of that phase, subtract 1 from casting rolls for enemy wizards. And then the standard of the Ulfen Watch. If the bearer is on the battlefield, you can roll a dice equal to your opponent. Whenever your opponent spends a command point, on a 4+, you receive an extra command point. So they spend, you get. So that's the Wolf Boys. Again, like with only 3 of each thing, you kind of playing into whatever their shtick is, right? And you don't have a lot of, like, some of these things are just, like, the Ulfencarni Phylactery just feels better. I don't care about having as many command points. I don't care about the Terminus Clock that much. Because it requires a dice roll, but I sure would like all of my Deathless Minions rolls to be +1 for my summonable units wholly within 9 of me. Like, I can make a death cloud of 5+ ward zombies, which is pretty amazing. So the Kastelai dynasty, your battle traits, Might of the Crimson Keep. So these are your Blood Knights. At the end of the combat phase, if any enemy models were slain by attacks made by weapons with a friendly Kastelai vampire unit in that phase, pick one relevant ability opposite to apply to that friendly unit for the rest of the battle. If more than one ability opposite would apply to that unit, you can pick which ability that unit gains, and a unit cannot gain the same ability more than once per battle. So if any enemy models were slain, if it was a hero or monster, you get Bloodied Strength, +1 damage to your melee weapons. If it had a wound characteristic of 3 or more and was not a hero or monster. Seized Fervor, add one of the attack characteristics of your melee weapons. And if the slain model had a wound characteristic of 2 or more, +1 to your move characteristic. So the bigger the things you kill, you end the game basically with +1 damage, +1 attack, and +1 edge to your move. So try and kill different sized things with your Blood Knights. Your vampires, sorry. So not just Blood Knights, anyone that's Kastelai and a vampire. So it's all the vampiric like units too. So I think even like the Vargolf and stuff also get that. And then you get a Monstrous Rampage and a Heroic Action. The action is Masters of Retaliation. Pick a friendly Kastelai vampire hero. Until the end of that turn, at the end of each phase, if any wounds or mortal wounds were allocated to that hero in that phase, and that hero was not slain, roll a dice for each enemy within 3, and now 2+, they take D3 mortal wounds. So every time you wound him in a different phase, on a 2+, guys within 3 take mortal wounds. So don't wound him in multiple phases, because you're just going to get blown up. Then Battle Crazed for your Monster Rampage. Add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by melee weapons by this unit until the following combat phase. So you can just carry out this Monstrous Rampage. I like +1 to wound for everybody. All right, so 3 different command traits and 3 different artifacts of power. So the command traits, we got Swift and Deadly. Can reroll charge rolls for friendly Kastelai units with a holy within 12. That's cool, free rerolls. Undead Blade Lord. Once per turn, if this vampire, so its general's on the table. If this general is on the battlefield when a friendly Kastelai vampire unit gains an ability from Might of the Crimson Keep, then this general is not already gained. They gain it too. So you can feed all of your Vampire Knights abilities to your general, which is kind of neat. That's actually pretty powerful. And then the Shifting Keep. During deployment, if this general is on the battlefield, instead of setting up a Kastelai Blood Knights unit in the battlefield, you can put it to one side and say it's in the keep in reserve. You can set up anywhere in the battlefield. For each unit you've set up on the battlefield, you can do 1 to 1. And then at the end of your movement phase, you can set up 1 or more of these. It's basically just holy within 6 of the battlefield edge and no more than 9 from enemy units. It's the grave sites, but for the board edges. I think Undead Blade Lord, if you're playing this faction, is probably the best. Because you're just gonna, it means he doesn't have to be in melee to gain it. Yeah, he'll just gain them when your Blood Knight units do it, because if you're leaning into Blood Knights, why wouldn't you? And then your artifacts, you get a Gravesand Shard. Once per battle round, at the end of your Battle Shock phase, you can return a slain model to each friendly Kastelai summonable unit that's wholly within 18 of the bearer. That's really powerful. So just +1 slain summonable model back to your units. And then Fragment of the Keep, subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks with melee weapons by enemy units within 3 of the bearer. So as long as he's in melee, that unit's -1 to wound against everybody while he's there. And then the Red Casket, add 3 to run rolls and charge rolls for the bearer. +3 charge is incredibly powerful. I'm tempted to say that's the one, although the healing one is a tight second. And -1 to wound is good too. I mean, all 3 of those artifacts are great for like a fighting on a vampire general. So again, between the Lemian one and the Bloodkeep one, you're kind of fighting for who wants to fight harder in melee. And then finally we have the Avengorii dynasty. So the Avengorii dynasty is less a formal warhorse and more a menagerie of frenzied necrotic horrors. This is your slightly ghouly one. So you get Cursed Abominations. Once per turn at the start of the combat phase, you can pick a friendly Avengorii monster within 3 of the any enemy units. Until the end of the phase, you're top row for your damage. So basically, every turn, if you got a wounded monster, one of your wounded monsters goes to top row. That's just your battle trait for everything. And then Titans of the Grave, you get 3 different monstrous rampages. You get Maddening Hunger. Pick up to D3 enemy units, enemy models within 1 inch of this unit and roll a die. If it's greater than their wounds, they're slain. So you just eats 3 guys, or D3 guys. Unstoppable Nightmare, and that's an incredibly handy ability because that allows you to pick up things like nets. Because it's model, not unit, right? So like if you have night goblins around you netting you for -1 to hit, you go net, 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 and you eat them all on a 2+, and you've gotten rid of the nets. You can get rid of banners that way, unit leaders. There's a bunch of armies that require like special individual models to empower their units, and that means that you can, as a monster rampage, just basically delete D3 of them every round. That's why it's within 1 of this unit. So the ones he's crowded around you, or if you want to charge in and get close to them, you'll be able to rampage and eat them. And then Unstoppable Nightmare until the end of the following combat phase. The first time a different friendly Avengorii unit within 6 of this model is destroyed, this unit can fight immediately after the last slain model and destroy units removed from play. So yeah, and that doesn't cause any fight loss or anything like that. It's just if you decide you want to fight, and it's until the end of the following combat phase. So the combat phase you're in, the first time a friendly Avengorii unit's within 6 is destroyed, you basically have like a little baby unit next to you. You get to fight after they're killed. That doesn't say you can't pick to fight again either. It just says you fight immediately. So you fight with him first, then a little unit gets killed, and then you fight again. That's going to require some FAQing because I don't know if that... It doesn't say you can't fight again. There's no designer's note. So I'm not sure 100% what that means. It just says you immediately fight. Yeah, weird. All right, and then your command traits. We got Twisted Paragons. For your general, Monstrous Might. Subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks with melee weapons that target friendly Avengorii monsters wholly within 12 of the general. So -1 to wound against their monsters. Torment-driven throws. At the start of the combat phase, you can roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 of the general. On a 5+, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound, and the strike last effect applies to them until the end of the phase. And then Unhinged Rampager. You can reroll charge rolls for this general. In addition, at the end of the shooting phase, if any wounds or mortal wounds were allocated to this general in that phase, and the general is more than 9 inches from the enemy, this general can move up to D6. And then your Artifacts of Power, Breath of the Void Maw. Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, you can pick 1 enemy unit within 6 of the bear and roll. That's visible and roll a die. On a 2+, the unit suffers a number of mortal wounds equal to that roll. So 2 to 6 mortal wounds. You got Gorvar's Collar. Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, you can see the bearer will don Gorvar's Collar. If you do so, the strike first effect applies to the bearer until that end of that phase. And then the Furious Crown. You've got once per battle at the start of your charge phase, you can say that the bearer will unleash the Fury of the Crown. And if you do so after the bearer makes a charge move in that phase, you can pick 1 enemy unit within 1 inch of the bearer and roll a number of dice equal to the charge roll. So for each 4+ to take a mortal wound. And it doesn't say unmodified charge roll. So the Furious Crown, no, you can't combine it though. I was going to say that it's a +3 to charge ability, but it's a different faction, so you can actually one more combo with that. But weird that it says unmodified. It doesn't say unmodified charge roll because usually those things do, but it's 4+ mortal wounds. So obviously this is the monstrous one. If you're going to be taking monsters, this will be the one you take. So we are now into unit profiles, and I'm going to do my damnedest to try and see what's new and what's different. I'm going to miss stuff. There's a lot in here. It's not that many, but it's quite a few. The biggest one is Nagash, because he's still in here, as he's in all the death books. He has changed quite a bit. I reviewed him completely and in super detail in the Ossiak Bone Reapers review. So if you've watched that one already, you're not missing anything here. The basic, like, overall thing is that he has a condensed wound profile now. He has a certain amount of, hang on, I'll just bring him up. No, not Chaos, Death, stupid app. I want to go to Soulblight Gravelords, I want to go to War Scrolls, and I want to look at Nagash. His core stats are the same. He's gained an inch of movement, and it's now, his movement can actually change, whereas before it was always the same. He has his Arcalan Ash, exactly the same. Zephyt Nukbar has a fixed 4 for its attacks now, and wounds on 3s, and is -2 with 3 damage. And the Spectral Claws are 6 attacks, 4s, and 4s. They're all the same. Yeah, condensed wound profile. So it's at 9 wounds he brackets now. He starts with a 10-inch move, casts 8 spells, 24-inch range for his Nagash's like pseudo command ability. Then it's 10 to 12, 13 to 15, 16+ for his wounds. His move goes 10, 9, 8, 7. And it goes 8 spells, 6 spells, 5 spells, 4 spells. He's a War Master. He's got his companions, which are obviously the little guys. The Spirit Hosts, Spectral Claws, and Daggers. He gets to add 3 to his casting, unbinding, and dispelling rolls. Invocation for his summonable units. You just return up to 3 guys or 3 wound characteristic model. He's more arcane, so friendly death units wholly within 12 of them have a ward save of 5+. That means it'll combine with those command abilities we talked about earlier. So like that +1 to ward saves, give everybody a 4+ ward save within 9 of that general. And then you can still have him be a general because Nagash is a War Master. Now you're playing 965 points for Nagash, which is a crazy amount. Supreme Lord of the Undead gives them the +1 to, I believe it's saves. Oh no, it's bring back replacement units. As part of your hero phase, you can bring back a unit at half strength, which is kind of like your gravesite ability, but he can do it again. So you get 2 per turn if you have him in your army. Hand of Dust is still hold 2 dice in your hand. If they find it, you don't die. If you do, you die. Cast on 8, range 3. And then Soul Stealer has a casting value of 7 and a range of 24 inches. The unit takes D3 mortal wounds and an unmodified cast roll of 9+, it's D6 mortal wounds. And then you heal a wound, so he basically gets the wounds that you cause. So still really good. I mean, he's Nagash. He's 965 points. He should be amazing. Yeah, he's incredible. He brings guys back, which is fantastic. Like every unit gets healed within 24 of him. Yeah, it's incredible. He's fantastic. The 5+ word for your whole army is probably the thing you're paying the 965 points though. It's really good. All right, so we're on to Manfred. He gained 2 wounds, which is nice. His core stats other than that are the same. His Geist Vor got an attack for 5 and a rend for -2. And does flat 2 damage now. His Sickle Glaive is exactly the same. And then the Ebon Claws on his big mount are also exactly the same. They start at 6 stacks, so still the same as before. And then Spectral Claws and Daggers are hitting on 4s now, so slight glow up there. Damage table, it's condensed again, just like most of them have been. So this is 0 to 7. He has a 16-inch move and 6 Ebon Claw attacks. And then 8 to 9, 10 to 11, 12+. He gives 13, 10, and 7 for his move, and 5, 4, 3 for the Ebon Claw attacks. Cast 2 and binds 2. He's a War Master, so again, you can take an extra general on top of it. He's got a mount for the Ebon Claws and companion for the rest, so only the Geist Vor and Sickle Glaive attacks are his. And he's got the Armor of Templehof. He just negates the first wound and mortal wound each phase. The Sword of Unholy Power. Each time this unit fights, any wounds caused by the unit's Ebon Claws, Sickle Glaive, and Spectral Claws, and Daggers must be allocated first, followed by any wounds by Geist Vor. If any enemy models are slain by wounds caused by Geist Vor until the end of the phase, add 1 of the attack characteristic of melee weapons by friendly summonable units within 12 of this model. So if he kills anybody with Geist Vor after all the other attacks have gone off, then everybody gets +1 attack. And he's the Mortarch of Night. If he charges, he strikes first. In addition, if this unit receives the redeploy command, it can attempt to charge instead of making a D6 move. So that's incredible. Come within 9 of me, I get the command for a CP and I charge you. Like, that's really good. And then the Hunger, each time this unit fights after all its attacks have been resolved, you can heal up to a number of wounds allocated to this unit, equal to the number of wounds and mortal wounds caused by those attacks that were allocated to the enemy. So basically, to a maximum of 6, get 6 wounds back per turn. And then Deathwind, cast on 7, range 18. If you cast it, pick an enemy unit within range invisible, roll a dice for that unit, each other enemy unit within 6 of the unit. On a 3+, they take D3 mortal wounds. So a big blast of D3 mortal wounds onto various units. All right, our next Mortarch is Neferata. She also gained 2 wounds on her core profile. Akhmet Har, her big sword, got worse. It hits worse. It hits on 3s now. But it gained a rend, still 1 damage. Aken Seth gained an attack, and is 2s and 3s, -2, 2 damage. Skeletal Claws, same, 6, 5, 4, 3 on the damage chart. Same move as Manfred, so 16, 13, 10, 7, and then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12+ for the damage table profile. She flies, she's a War Master, she has the Hunger, and then her other abilities are the Dagger of Jet. At the end of any phase of any wounds caused by this unit's Akhmet Har were allocated to an enemy hero in that phase, and the hero was not slain. Roll a dice. On a 5+, they're slain. So just, if you didn't kill me, on a 5+, you're dead. And then Twilight's Allure, subtract 1 from hit rolls for melee weapons that target friendly Legion of Blood units within 12 of her, because she's so pretty. And then finally, the Dark Mist, cast on 6, range 12. If cast, a friendly Legion of Blood unit wholly within range invisible to the caster can ignore negative modifiers to save rolls. And that's until your next hero phase. So just make your guys basically ethereal within range. And then Prince Vordre gets a core stat line. I love that he's in here now, because you could always make this like out of the plastic miniatures. He had it before too, but like he got him with his helmet off now. The Red Duke, he looks really good. Gain 2 wounds. And a lot of this stuff is going to be shared between the different vampires and stuff. He gets Pestilential Breath as a shooting attack now. 12-inch range, D6, 3+, 3+, -1, 3 damage shots. That's bonkers. That's a bonkers gun. Like, the fact that it's D6, it's potentially 18 damage in shooting. That's monstrous. The Bloodlands got an attack for 5. And then the Snapping Maw is -3, and then flat 3 damage now instead of D6. Swordlight Claws are starting at 7 attacks, then 7, 6, 5, 4 down the damage track. The damage track for him is 6 wounds, then 7 to 9, 10 to 12, and then 13 plus, 14, 12, 10, 8 for the move, and then 7, 6, 5, 4 for the attacks for the claws. They're 4s and 3s, -1, 2 damage. Super high damage output. He casts 1, unbinds 1. He's a War Master as well now. That's really handy, the fact that he's a War Master, because it means you can have a command trait still, even though he's a named character. And then he flies. He's the Fist of Nagash. Once per turn, if this unit is on the battlefield, the friendly Kastelai Vampire unit gains an ability with the Might of the Crimson Keep battle trait. You can pick one other friendly Kastelai Vampire unit wholly within 20 for this unit that's not already gained an ability, and it's not yet gained any other ability from the Might of the Crimson Keep, and they gain the same ability. So basically, if one of your Blood Knight units learns something, then one other Kastelai Vampire unit wholly within 12 can get it. And I think he is also a Kastelai Vampire unit. He is. So he'll gain all the abilities from the Kastelai Vampire thing. That's cool that he's just like baked into it now. When he charges, his Blood Lance is Rend -3 and 3 damage. So it's going to hit very hard. That's 15 potential damage. And then the Hunger, this guy's bonkers. Lets him get wounds back. He causes terror, so you can't Inspiring Presence within 3 of him. And Quick Blood. Cast on 7, he gets the Strike First effect if it goes off. So he can make himself Strike First. He is a dangerous vampire. A very dangerous vampire. All right, we're into the weird mutant vampires now. So Lark of the Vengorian Lords, the named one, Lauka Vi. Same core stats. The Rapier is 5 attacks now, and -2 rend. The Gourd Wrench Talons are hit on 3s and 2s to wound. That's amazing. -2 and flat 3 damage. That got way better. And the Impaling Tail is the same, but got into rend. Also War Master. Cast 1, unbinds 1, flies. Queen amongst monsters, once per turn at the end of the charge phase. Pick a friendly Avengorii monster, wholly within 12. You can carry out 2 different monster rampages instead of 1. So she's really cool in that Avengorii list. And then Nightmare's Miasma. While an enemy hits within 3 of any friendly units with this ability, worsen their rend by 1. She has the Hunger, and then her spell is the Queen's Diktat. Cast on 6, range 24. If successfully cast, pick one enemy unit within range invisible until your next hero phase. Friendly Avengorii monsters eligible to fight in the combat phase if they're within 6 instead of 3. So they pile in, they basically pounce. So if they manage to get within 6 and they didn't charge or get charged, you can basically, you can avoid charging. And you can avoid things that trigger on charging by walking within 6 and then just making a 6-inch pile-in. That's bonkers. That's really, really good. That's really good. Because it means you can avoid all the half-inch stuff too. Like if you got within a half-inch of certain things, because you can just get within range of your attack, right? And a lot of them have like the Snapping Maw and Swordlight Claws are 3 and 2-inch range. Oh, she's a really good monster leader. That spell's really good. So, but you just have to cast that spell on an enemy unit. But then all the monsters can just surround it afterwards. That's incredible. That's a really good spell. So you pick out one unit what you want the monsters to pounce on, and then whenever you feel like going, you have them pile in and fight it. All right, so the Vengorian Lord, this is the not named one. It's the same core stats, it looks like. There's so many heroes in this one, it's bananas. Yeah, core stats are the same. Nightmare Saber is the same. Gourd Wrench Talons, got the same glow up, so 3s and 2s, -3 damage. The Impaling Tail is the same. He's got Festering Feast. He still has Nightmare Miasma. The Festering Feast, pick a monster not a hero that's wholly within 12 of this unit, and that destroyed any enemy units, and then heal all their wounds. And he also has the Hunger, and then his spell is Curse Reflection. Cast on 5 and range 24. If cast, pick a friendly Soulblight Gravelords monster wholly within range invisible, and that unit can use the Hunger ability from this caster's War Scroll. So basically, it'll heal if it does damage, which is really nice. Again, a great monstrous like leader. All right, Radiker, the Beast. How'd you do, buddy? Your core stats did not change. Your Bloodstick Claws are the same. You gained a Rend. And then your Piercing Blade got flat 2 damage. He can run Charge, Call the Hunt. This unit's accompanied by 2 Vyrkos Bloodborne armed with Piercing Blades. So he comes with the 2 Bloodborne. That's cool. He's got companions. Oh, they're on the model with him. Never mind. I was like, is there extra miniatures? The Piercing Blades are the same. Hunger is the same. Unleash Ferocity. So Call the Hunt in the combat phase. If this unit made a charge move in the same turn, add 1 of the attack characteristic of friendly Vyrkos summonable units wholly within 12. Unleash Ferocity. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with this Bloodstick Claws is a 6, they take 2 mortal wounds, the attack sequence ends. Supernatural Reflexes, -1 to hit and wound that attacks target this model. And the Beast Will out. This unit cannot retreat. However, at the end of any phase, if any wounds or mortal wounds are allocated to this unit in that phase, and this unit is more than 12 from all enemy units, this movement can move up to D6 inches. Because he's just gonna keep attacking. He just loves killing, Morty. All right, the new miniature, Ivya Volga. I love this model because of its weird goat legs. I think it's got such a cool, like, #28 look to it. I'm very into it. It is weird that it's a named character, though. I feel like this was maybe another one of the old Curse City, like, supposed to be outs. So she's moved 6 wounds, 4+ save and bravery 10. She's the outcast. She's got the hunger, just like all the vampires. She got a Shrieking Swarm. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks that target this unit. In addition, if this unit has any wounds allocated to it, the attack characteristic of its Needling Fangs is 12. Because the bats following it have 2d6 attacks, 4s and 4s -1, 1 damage. As soon as she's wounded, they have 12 attacks. And then Behemoth's Bane. If any monsters within 3 of this unit, the unit counts as 10 models for contesting objectives. In addition, while any monsters are within 3 of this unit, the attack characteristic of all that monster's melee weapons becomes 1. She just kills monsters. I mean, they might still kill her because she's got 6 wounds. Her Heirloom Axe is 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1, 2 damage. And then, like I said, the Needling Fangs are 2d6 or 12, 4s and 4s, -1, 1 damage. She's neat. I like that she's just like this weird pack hunter that goes out and roams ahead. She's cheap. All right, the grandma, Belladama Volga. Core stats are the same. Her Time Worn Scimitar gained an attack for 4 and flat 2 damage. And her Lupine Fangs and Claws are the same. She's Kastelai 2 Wizard. She's a War Master now, which is nice. Almost all these big name characters are War Masters, and I love that for this because it means that you can still make your own character that's like your cool hero leading your army and include these in your army without them breaking it all. And then first of the Vyrkos, I went to casting, dispelling, and unbinding rolls for this unit. In addition, if there's units within 3 of any friendly Direwolves units, before you allocate a wound to them on a 3+, it goes to them. And they take it instead as a mortal wound. She gets the hunger because she's a vampire. She has the Lichen Curse. Cast on 7, range 18. If cast, pick a enemy unit wholly within range, and visible to the caster, they take D3 mortal wounds. If any models in that unit were slain by the spell before removing the last slain model, you can add 1 unit of Direwolves to your army. The number of models in the new unit must be equal to the number of models in the enemy unit that were slain by the spell. Set them up wholly within 3 of the slain model's unit, and then remove the slain model from play. She turns dudes into wolves. And then under an Echo and the Bunnyman Killing Moon is a cast on 6 and range 24 inches. If cast into your next hero phase, the unmodified hit roll for any attack made with a melee weapon by a friendly Vyrkos unit wholly within range of the caster is a 6. The attack scores 2 hits instead of 1. So she's neat. She buffs all the stuff that you would expect her to buff. And the Lichen thing is, I mean, it's not good, but it's incredibly thematic. Like that's the crazy thing. It pins units, and I guess it has some utility, but it's not like mechanically good. I think that my favorite thing about the Soulblight's army is, with the exception of like the Knights and like the mechanically powerful like killing pieces, the Knights and the Lamians maybe, it's all very like in theme. It's not necessarily all about like the sort of like mechanical advantage it grants. Gorslav, you got nothing new except your move went up to 5 inches. That's sweet. You gain 2 attacks on your shovel because you're a shoveler and you love shoveling. Your 3s and 3s instead of 4s and 3s now, -1 and flat 2 damage. So you get a little more consistency out of him. He's the keeper of the corpse gardens. If this unit's within 3 of any zombies, before you allocate a wound or mortal wound to them on a 2+, they go to them instead because they're just going to try and protect him. And then arise. Once per turn, At the end of your movement phase, you can pick one friendly Deadwalker zombie unit that's been destroyed, and your replacement unit with half their stuff left comes in within 9 of him and more than 9 from the enemy. So you can bring back zombies because he digs them out of the ground. All right, Torgilius the Chamberlain, the creepiest looking dude, the guy you would not take weird old candy from. He got no stat increases. His necrotizing bolts, which used to be like a spell, is now just a gun. 18-inch range, 2d6, 4s and 4s, -1/2 damage. That's a seriously good gun. Like potentially 12 damage, 2 shots that can all attack. He's a machine gun. There's like Caradron Overlord units that are jealous of this guy's ability to spit. And then Claws and Fangs for his little melee attacks, 4 attacks, 4s and 4s, 1 damage. He casts one and binds one, and then he's a trusted lieutenant. Friendly Vyrkos summonable units have a 5+ ward while they're within 12 of him. So that's pretty cool. Pair him up with the +1 ward guy. And then the Vyrkos Bloodborne, the triplets. How are the Van Alten triplets doing today? We're into units now, other units in particular. Their core stats are the same. They've got flat 2 damage now is their major change. They're still shadow fast. They can make a 10-inch move before the game starts. They have vampiric agility. They can cross-train features if they can fly, and they have the hunger like any other vampire. So they're just a neat, fast unit with 9 wounds. Watch Captain Halgrim. How you doing, buddy? It's been a long time since I killed you in the darkness of the city. You got no core stat increases. Your attacks went up to 5, and your 3s and 3s -1 flat 2 damage now. So a little more consistent. Your Cursed Halberd does 2 mortal wounds if it hits with a 6, and your Disciplined Advance, you can issue the Add to Double unit to command 3 Death Rattle units at the same time as opposed to 1 for 1 CP. That's cool. You're taking lots of skeletons, then he is a very smart choice. Let's talk about the Vargskir. You are identical core-wise. Your attacks are the same. Your Gaping Maw is D3 attacks now instead of 1. And flat 2 damage instead of D3. That's nice. He can Bounding Leap, he can charge with an 18 and roll 3d6, and he still has the hunger like a vampire. He's a neat, cheap little baby not monster, because he doesn't have the monster keyword either. Your Kasagi Night Guards, and I don't mean things that straighten your teeth. You gained a save, so 4+ save now, and an 8-inch move. Whoa, they got way faster. Holy moly, with those long ogre legs. His Bardiche is still 2 attacks, 3s and 3s -1/2 damage. They don't have that much attack, hitting. They're Deathly Vigor's 5+ ward. And add one of their attack characteristics to their Bardiches if they're wholly within 12 of Radiker. Either version. That's cool. That's a neat little bodyguard unit. I wish they had some kind of bodyguard take damage for him thing. Yeah, but other than that, I think that's cool. Lady Annika, the Thirsting Blade. Man, there are so many characters, and this is bananas. I mean, there's only 4 different actual units. Lady Annika. Did you change it all? You got 5 attacks now and flat 2 damage. The hunger like all the vampires. Supernatural speed. 4+ wards. And during deployment you can put her to one side and have them show up anywhere in enemy territory. Not within 9. And then Kiss of the Blade Proboskian. What a weird name for a sword. At the end of any phase, if any wounds caused by attacks made with it target an enemy hero or monster and they weren't destroyed, their save goes down by 1. Because you bleed them out to a minimum of 6. And then Kritska the Rat Prince. I identify wholeheartedly with his sweet haircut. He has the same core stats. His Gnawblade has 5 attacks now and flat 2 damage. And he's got the hunger. He can Scurrying Retreat. He can retreat instead of fighting. So if he's picked to fight, you can just run away instead. And the Verminous Court. At the start of the combat phase, you can pick one enemy unit within one of this unit that has an artifact of power. On a 3+, you can't use it anymore. It's gone. He just eats your magic sword. All right, Vampire Lord on a zombie dragon. We've already kind of seen this guy's stat line through the whatchamacallit mounted guy. So gain 2 wounds, just like all of them have so far. He's got 16. Pestilential Breath is the same amazing D6 damage 3 attacks. The Death Lance is slightly worse, so 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, minus 2 damage. You can take that or a Vampiric Sword. The Vampiric Sword's 5 attacks, 3s and 2s, minus 1, 2 damage. The Lance, of course, I think gets bonuses on the charge. Yeah, it does, just like the other one. He flies, he's a mountain. Snapping Maw and Swordlike Claws are the same as the other big guy. Same stat line for the damage table as well. Has the Hunger, he's a vampire, has the Deathlance charge, has the No Inspiring Presence, and then has the Curse of Exsanguination as his spell, because he can cast one and unbind one. Cast on 7, range 18, if successfully cast, pick an enemy unit within range and visible. They suffer mortal wounds, and if it's allocated to a model in that unit and the model is not slain by that mortal wound, roll a die on a 3+ to take a mortal wound, and you can roll another dice. And keep going until either they're slain or there's nothing else happening. So you start to bleed out. Yeah, so basically as long as you can keep rolling 3+, you can bleed somebody out. That's a bonkers spell. Just keep rolling 3+ and you kill somebody. Kato Ezekiar, the Hollow King. I do like this miniature. Probably one of the nicest miniatures they've made. He's the good guy, bad guy vampire. He has an Ezekarian Greatsword. His core stats are the same. I think this guy hasn't changed at all because I think he's so new. Yeah, he's exactly the same. He is not changed at all. He's so new that because he just come out, he's exactly the same as he was. The Vampire Lord gained attacks as well. Flat 2 damage. Has the Hunger. Has Crimson Feast. Once you turn at the start of the combat phase, you can pick a friendly Gravelord Summon unit wholly within 12. Add one of the attack characters to that unit's melee weapons until the end of the phase. We're looking at Vargeists and Blood Knights. All right, Blood Knights, how'd you do in all this? You guys are pretty much the same. Gained a Rend. Everything else is the same. Standard's the same, Champion's the same. They have the Hunger because they're vampires. They have Riders of Ruin. They can pass across models with 3 or less wounds, and on a 2+, they take D3 mortal wounds if they do so. And then Martial Fury, +1 damage if they made a charge. It doesn't affect the mounts, though. And then your Vargeists. How you doing, Vargeists? Core stats, the same. Your attacks, flat 2, exactly the same. Still fly, Champion does the same. Exploding 6s to hit for 2 attacks. Hunger's the same as vampires. Death's Descent, you can put them in reserve and they can show up anywhere on the table, not within 9. All right, now the Eskurgan True Blades are in here from the latest Warcry box. I think that's pretty cool. These are vampires that hate vampires. It's a bit weird they're in here. Their stat lines are exactly the same as currently in the app because they're so new. That makes sense. And we've got the Bloodseeker Palanquin. Have you changed Bloodseeker Palanquin? Because you are a thing full of vampires. You are core stats the same. Bloodletting Blade, gain an attack and flat 2 damage. Claws gained a +1 to hit. Condensed wound stat line, so 6 wounds, then 7 to 8, 9 to 10, 11 plus. Move 14, 12, 10, 8. The Whale of the Damned is 16, 14, 12, 10. And the blades go from 12 to 10 to 8 to 6. Has the Hunger because it's a vampire. Casts one and binds one. A promising concoction. The first time an enemy hero is slain by attacks made with this unit, for the rest of the battle, add one of the attack characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly vampire units while they're wholly within 12 of this unit, because he makes a good brew. And you can carry 2 different heroic actions with this unit at the start of the hero phase instead of 1. Whale of the Damned in your shooting phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit within range of Whale of the Damned, so starting at 16 down to 10 later on a 4+, they take D3 mortal wounds. And their spell is Blood Siphon. Cast on 6, range 12. Pick an enemy hero visible with cast and roll a die. On a 1 to 2, the target suffers some mortal wounds. On a 3 to 4, it's D3. On a 5-6, it's D6. So pretty much the same as it was. A bit fightier. Like all these things are getting like a bit fightier, but their core sort of like rules aren't changing too much. And then the Mortis Engine. We got Mortis Engine. Let's dare to compare. More Ascension. It is same core stats. Mortis Staff, gain flat 2 damage. And it hits on 4s and 4s now. Spectral Claw is the same as the Palanquin. Damage track's the same as the Palanquin. Moves the same as the Palanquin. Wail the Dam's the same as the Palanquin. It's got the Reliquary. Every time a friendly Soulblight Gravelords wizard successfully casts a spell, it's not unbound. Unbinds a spell or dispels an endless spell. Place a Reliquary counter beside this to a maximum of 6. Once per battle, in your hero phase, you can say that this unit will unleash its energies. If you do so, each unit within 6 of this unit suffers a number of mortal wounds equal to the number of Reliquary counters. So basically, it builds up and then blows up. And then Nexus of Death Energy. Each time you pick a friendly Soulblight's Gravelord summonable unit wholly within 12 of this unit, using Deathly Invocation, you can either heal up to D3 plus 3 wounds allocated, or if no wounds have been allocated, you can return a number of slain models equal to D3 plus 3. So it's just an enhanced Deathly Invocation. Coven Throne. It's basically the same as the Palanquin. Has the Hunger. Has Tactical Insight and Scrying Pool instead. Unit can issue the same command up to 2 times in the same phase, but it has to be just Soulblight Gravelord summonable units, and it doesn't cost any orders. Or it does cost. No command point is spent for the second one. And then Scrying Pool, if you take the first turn in the current battle round, the unit can attempt to cast 1 extra spell in your hero phase. If you take the second turn, you receive an extra command point. And then Undying Servitude, cast on 7, range 12. If you cast it, pick an enemy hero with a wound characteristic of 6 or less within range invisible, and take D3 mortal wounds. If the hero is slain, before removing them from play, add a Vampire Lord to your army, because you turn them into a Vampire Lord. That's really cool for like someone with a couple wounds left. All right, Zombie Dragon. It's the same as the mount, so it hasn't changed at all. It just has Loathsome Descent, so you can deep strike it if you want. Has the same Pestilential Breath. It's just take the Vampire off the Zombie Dragon Battered Vampire. The Terrorgeist has Death Shriek, which is different. No attack sequence, roll a dice and add the Death Shriek value, which goes +6, +5, +4, +3. Has the same damage track, 14, 12, 10, 8 as the dragon. And the same Skeletal Talons and Fang Maw attacks, they're all the same. Actually, the Fang Maw is 3 attacks, 4s and 3s, -2 d6 damage. It still has variable damage. So if it's +6 and it's higher than the Bravery, then you do mortal wounds equal to the difference. So you're rolling a 13 on average to start with. And then Gaping Maw, unmodified hit roll for its Fang Maw is a 6, takes 6 mortal wounds. The attack sequence ends. And Infested, every enemy unit takes D3 mortal wounds when it dies within range. So it's pretty much the same as it was before. White King. We're into all little stuff now, like the minutia, because this is all little basic guys. He's exactly the same. It looks like flat 2 damage on his attacks now, and he gained an attack. 6 to hit, do 2 mortal wounds still. Lord of Shambling Bone. Once per turn at the start of your hero phase, you can pick a friendly Death Rattle Skeleton unit or Graveguard unit within 12. Until your next hero phase, you get Exploding 6s. Skeletal Seas, the Skeletal Steed one, also gain an attack on his Lance, and it's a hit for his Hooves and Teeth. King's Charge, 2 plus D3 mortal wounds after he charges, and then Lord of Trampling Bones. Reroll charge rolls for Black Knight units wholly within 12 of this unit, and in addition, Black Knight's units that finish a charge wholly within 12 of this unit, their effective Deathly Charge just triggered on a 4 instead of a 5. So they get 4 plus mortal wounds instead of 5 plus mortal wounds. Black Knights. Where you got, Black Knights? You guys are core battle line. Nope, they're not battle line anymore. They're other. They're battle line in certain armies. Core stats are the same. Barrel Lance is the same. Skeletal Hooves and Teeth are the same. Deathly Charge is still... It's not a 2 plus now. It's roll 2 dice for each model in this unit, and for every 5 plus, take a mortal wound. It's not a 2 plus D3 anymore. They do more damage on the charge now for mortal wounds. All right, back with Graveguards. These guys are identical, except for their standard bearer. Lets them re-roll the 1s now for Deathless. No, actually, that's the same as before, too. They're identical. They're the same. No changes at all. Good old Graveguard, being Graveguard. Core stats the same, weapon stats the same, rules the same. The Necromancer, he still looks a lot like Dick Cheney, and you can't unsee that once you see it. And then his core stats are identical. His attack stats, he went to flat 2 damage, which is pretty on par. But only 4s and 4s now for his melee attacks. He lost some to hit and to wound. Cast 1, unbind 1. He now has undead minions. If this unit's within 3 of any summonable units, when you allocate a wound or mortal wound on a 4+, it goes to them instead, so he gets protected by his units. And then Van Hel's Dance Macabre, still one of the oldest OG spells. Cast on 6, range 18. If cast, pick a friendly Soulblight Gravelord summonable unit, wholly within range, invisible, and within 3, and they can immediately fight. So fight in the hero phase, which is pretty cool. Deadwalker Zombies, these guys were surprising heroes of the last book with their mortal wound output. They get 6-up saves now, which is nice, which is an improvement. 2 attacks, 5s and 4s now, so to a wound bonus. They've still got Dragged and Torn Apart, so each time a model in this unit is slain by an attack made by a melee weapon on a 5+, they take a mortal wound. And then the Newly Dead, and that's definitely different. Dragged Down and Torn Apart has changed quite a bit. When they die, you take a mortal wound on a 5. And then the Newly Dead, at the end of the combat phase, you can roll a dice for each enemy unit that was slain. So enemy model was slain by wounds caused by this unit on 2+, get an extra zombie back. So everyone they kill, they get a guy back. And every time they die on a 5+, a guy takes a mortal wound. So there's basically a 1/3 recycling now, but not quite as murder fighty. I think that's an okay change, especially now that they have a save. Direwolves, still 2 wounds. They are still 2 wounds. I knew they must still be 2 wounds. Their point value weirded me out. And you're looking at still 2 attacks, 4s and 4s with 1 damage, no rend. On the hunt, they can fight within 6 and pound an extra 3. That's different from Slavering Charge. So Slavering Charge is now just gone. No more Slavering Charge. They just get to pile in and fight within 6, which is cool because, again, you get around, like, charge reduction shenanigans. You get around a bunch of things. You just walk within 6 of somebody and then pile in and fight. The Fellest of Bats. What do you guys got going on? Core stats are identical. They gained damage 2 on their attacks. That's double the damage output. That's pretty cool. They get the Hunger, which is the vampire ability. They heal when they do damage. And then Single-Minded Ferocity is still, they can retreat and charge. If any enemy units were slain by wounds caused by unit attacks in that phase, they get +1 to their elongated fang attacks. So bonus ability and extra damage. That's a glow up for Fellbats for sure. Considering how nice the new models are, that's pretty cool. Corpse Cart. It is now 1 Corpse Cart. They're no longer 2 Corpse Carts. Core stats are identical. The Goad is the same. The Lash is the same. The Rusty Blades are the same. And then you just choose which it is now. It's either a Locus of Undeath or a Shishin Relic. So either a Lodestone or a Balefire Brazier. Yeah, and you just get the same effects in the same model. So add one of the casting rolls for friendly Gravelords Wizards, wholly within 12 of the Lodestone. Subtract 1 for enemy wizards that are within 12 of the Balefire Brazier. That's it. It's just a plus or a minus depending upon which one you take. And then Locus of Undeath, the unmodified wound roll made by a friendly Deadwalker Zombies unit, wholly within 12 of any friendly units with this ability is a 6 that does a mortal wound. So Locus of Undeath now basically gives you the 6s to mortal wound. So you can jack up your zombies if you have one of these around your unit. So it's a 1-2 punch now, which is pretty cool. And makes these guys have like a reason to exist. So you can still do mortal wounds to your zombies. There's a setup for it now, basically. Death Rattle Skeletons. They have the same core stats. They reversed it. So Ancient Weapons is 1-inch range, 4s and 3s, as opposed to 3s and 4s. And then Skeleton Legion, you get to reroll 1s, your ward rolls for the Standard Bearer. So the combat phase, roll dice for each slain model in this unit. On a 4+, they come back. Well, Undying Legion. And then Tie to Bones and Blades, improve the rend characteristic of this unit's melee weapons by 1 if the number of models in this unit is greater than the number of models in the target unit. So you get +1 to hit. And that makes sense. They've reversed the wound roll now, so because you're going to gain the to hit from just outnumbering. All right, we are into some Sepulchral Guard. They are 2 wounds each now. They doubled their wound stat. That's pretty cool. Their actual like core attacks look pretty similar. Ancient Spear got a bonus to hit, or to wound rather. It went on 3s now. Actually, everything wounds on 3s. So the whole thing's 4s and 3s now. So anybody who was 4s, the Ancient Great Blade and the Spear were 4s before, they're all 3s now. Everything else looks pretty much the same. And they got Frightening Speed, reroll charges, and they're eligible to fight within 6 and compile an extra 3, so they gained that. And then Servant Death, exploding 6s is the same. King Morlock Velmorn, the new skeleton from the Sons of Velmorn. They've got 5 wounds. Oh no, sorry, the character has the Sons of Velmorn. Now the character, it looks like he's separate. He's got 5 wounds. Okay, so everybody else has 2 wounds. He's got 5 wounds. He's a separate guy now. And he's 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1/2 damage. He's got a Beheading Strike. If he hits with a 6, it's 2 mortal wounds. Deadly Command. Once per turn, the unit can issue a command without the command point being spent. And Undying Dynasty. At the start of the combat phase, roll die for each slain model in a friendly Sons of Velmorn unit. On a 4+, they come back, if they're within 12 of them. And then the Velmorns themselves look pretty similar. 4+ saves, 2 wounds each. Their attack stats are basically unchanged. They got Cursed Weapons for mortal wounds, shields up to improve their saves, and they can't pile in. And then Canny Strike, pick an enemy within 1 on a 2+, the unit cannot make pile-in moves. Nice. Dantalos the Exile and the Exile Dead. The Exile Dead are still no save. They're the only guys that didn't get a save. Sweet. They look like they are pretty much the same. And then Dantalos himself, the Exile, he's pretty new. His core stats look pretty much the same. Dynamic bolts are the same. The stave dynamic is still D3. They're the same. And that's it. We're done. Point values. Zombies, 115 in battle line. Skeletons, 85. So it's 20 for zombies, 10 for skeletons, and 10 for direwolves. There are 85 points for the skeletons and 130 points for the direwolves. Mortis Engine's 230. A Terrorgeist is 300, as is a zombie dragon. Volga is 170. Kato as Kiar, the Hollow King, is 135. Daedalus is Exile Dead are 220. These are all leaders now. Gorslav's 120. Volga's the Outcast is 135. Morlock Velmorn and his Sons of Velmorn are 220. Kritza's 120. Annika the Thirsting Blade's 120. Lakavai is 300. Necromancer's 90. Prince Duval's 220. Radiker's 290. Radiker the Wolf is 130. Big Radiker the Beast is 290. Torgilius is 125. Vampire Lord's 130. So many characters in this. Vangorian Lord's 280. Watch Captain Halgrim's 110. The White King's 135. The Skeletal Seed's 160. The Bloodseeker Paladin's 320. We're back into leader behemoths now. Covenant Lord's 275. Manfred's 390. Nagash is 965. Nephrite is 390. Prince Vordray's 470. He's amazing though. What a kill piece. And a regular old Vampire Lord and a Zombie Dragon's 440. True Blades are 180 for 8. A Black Knight unit is 110 for 5. Blood Knights are 230 for 5. Corpse Cart's 70. A Fellbats unit is 3 for 85. Graveguard are 10 for 140 in their battle line if you have a White King. The Fellbats are battle line in a Legion and Knight Army. And the Black Knights and Blood Knights are the Black Knights are battle line in a Legion of Blood, and then the Kalistay for the Blood Knights. Kursagi Night Guard are just a single unit of 90 points for 2 guys. Spellcraft Guard are 100 points. Vargeist are 155. Varskier is 110, and the Vyrkos Bloodborne are 90 for 3. And you can ally with Flesh Eater Courts and Night Haunts, and that's it. So there you go. Soulblight Gravelords wrapping in a new character model. I mean, honestly, it feels like they just do. There's a bit of shuffling, right? Like the zombies mortal wounding coming from the corpse cart, because I think they did it themselves before, but then doing it when they get dragged down and torn apart still. Like it's shuffled, like the same outcome, but you shuffle around how you have to arrange your units basically to get there. It feels like the damage output went way up on the vampires. And again, I've said this in the past book reviews, I'm not a huge fan of siloing the legions and like siloing like the army styles like together. Because it feels like you're going to have 2 that maybe kind of outshine or one that outshines other ones. I do feel like if you're just gonna play like competitively and look for like pure like mechanical damage, the Neferatan one, people disagree with me, and the Blood Knights one are probably way up there. Although the freaky mutant vampire one probably has some legs as well. It's just like the abilities, the command trait, the relic, and the like overall like actions and stuff just tie together better, I feel, and are probably just easier to use, like to mechanical advantage. But overall, I mean, it's doing exactly what the last couple books have done. It's a good 3rd edition glow up. Some things got like zapped, inconsistent damage got made consistent, like 2 damage. I think that's important too. And overall, it feels like if you're playing this army, and I have an army I haven't painted these guys, which I'd love to actually get on the table, you'll be happy with the fact that you're playing full 3rd edition now, which I think everybody is, you know, is up for. This army actually would probably do pretty well in the current battle pack too, just because it's got lots of little characters and the potential for lots of little characters. And your core troops are actually pretty solid. Like Graveguard are great. Zombies are just fantastic. Like zombies are amazing. Zombies with carts. If you like painting tons of zombies, you won't go far wrong. The Resurgence is amazing, and you've got cool characters to lead the way. So, thanks for watching. We'll see you for more GMG reviews. Till I'm Ash. Have a good day. Hey there. I hope you enjoyed that video. There are tons of other games already recorded for you to watch. Click over to my channel page if you haven't already, and have a look through the dozens of playlists full of videos. I guarantee you'll discover a game you haven't seen played before. I put out new videos 7 days a week, and every day is themed to a different genre as I continue to explore the wider world of gaming. Of course, none of that's possible without you, the viewer, so click a like and subscribe if you'd like to stay on top of what's happening here daily. My 2 kids and I are massively grateful to be able to have the flexibility of this job so I can always maximize my time with them. If you want to support me continue to put out this content, it's only possible because of my amazing backers on Patreon who support the studio, equipment, and model cost, as well as being how I make the bulk of my living. You can also help out by buying a t-shirt through Spreadshirt, a measuring gauge or widget from Death Ray Designs, or buying one of my games and supplements like Last Days, Gamma Wolves, and Blaster. As a way of showing my appreciation, patrons get early access to new games and supplements that I write throughout the course of the year. Huge thanks for watching, it really does help out, and happy gaming.